مرحبا أهلا وسهلا بكم جميعا. يغلبني منظر رمال دبي وهي تعانق هذه السماء المرصعة بالنجوم في وصف شعوري باجتماعنا هنا اليوم، وبعد عامين طويلين في أهم فعاليات المهرجان أمسية أبيات من أعماق الصحراء. واستهل حديثي ببيت شعري لأبي الفضل الوليد: يا ليل لولا الشعر ما بقي الهوى ولا الحسن في الدنيا ولا المجد ولا الفخر، إذ أننا نجتمع هنا اليوم احتفاء بالكلمة وعلى ما تنطوي عليه من سحر، وبالشعراء وإبداعهم الذي يرى في المفردات ما لا نراه نحن. وتقدم بجزيل الشكر لهم لمنحنا الفرصة لنرى العالم من خلال عيونهم وأن نلتمس بتفاصيله بقصائدهم. وهذه هي الفرصة المثالية لنا ولكم لنستعيد نمط حياتنا الطبيعي، وأن نستقبل ما يقدمه لنا المستقبل بصدر رحب، وأن نقبل عليه بروح مفعمة بالأمل وبالتفاؤل، وكل أمل أن تقدم لنا هذه الأمسية من أجواء الإبداع والأدب ما افتقدناه من روح الانسجام والترابط. أترككم الآن بالاستماع بالأمسية. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here tonight, and I'm lost for words with the beauty that we're surrounded with here today, with these beautiful stars and this amazing Dubai desert, enjoying an evening of wonderful poetry that we have in store for you tonight. Poets always let us see the world in a way that we can't imagine ourselves, so we need to thank them for the words that they give us and the feelings that they let us feel. And tonight is our opportunity to bring back some of what we've lost in the last 2 years and be filled with optimism and take in this amazing atmosphere and move into a brighter time. I hope that you enjoy this evening and that we get to know each other a little bit better and speak throughout the night. Thank you.
Thanks, أحلام. السلام عليكم، مرحبا وأهلا وسهلا بكم في هذه الأمسية الجميلة من مهرجان طيران الإمارات للأداب بدورته 14. وأخيرا بعد عامين طويلين، إنه لمن الرائع أن نعود إلى هنا، إلى وسط الصحراء وتحت ضوء القمر، في أمسية المهرجان الخاصة أبيات من أعماق الصحراء، لنحتفل معا بجمال الكلمات. عدنا إليكم مرة أخرى مع نخبة من الشعراء العالميين المتميزين، ومعنا اليوم من الولايات المتحدة كلا من كارلوس أندريس غوميز وبرنت شاتلورث وإليزابيث أسيفيدو، ومن المملكة المتحدة نيكيتا جيل وساشا أختار، ومن مصر نور ناجا، ومن النجوم المحليين دكتورة أفرا عتيق وأحمد العلي وزينب الرفاعي وسارة عبدالله. ينتظرنا وإياكم بعض العروض المفعمة بالمشاعر والإبداع في أمسية مميزة تلمس القلوب وتحفز الفكر. ولكن قبل أن نبدأ الأمسية، أود أن أتقدم بجزيل الشكر لدائرة السياحة والتسويق التجاري لرعاية هذه الأمسية الخاصة، ومركز دبي التجاري العالمي على ضيافتنا بالمشروبات والطعام، وتور دبي على توفير هذا المكان الساحر، ومركز حمدان بن محمد لإحياء التراث على فرقة العيالة والترفيه. وبالطبع نخص الشكر الراعي الرسمي طيران الإمارات، والشريك المؤسس هيئة دبي للثقافة والفنون دبي للثقافة. Hello and welcome everyone at this beautiful event at the Emirates Airline Festival of Literature. After 2 long years, it is so wonderful to be here in the desert, under the stars, with our signature event, Desert Stanzas. Once again, we've got an amazing lineup of poets with Carlos Andrés Gómez, Brent Shuttleworth, and Elizabeth Acevedo from the USA, Nikita Gill and Sasha Akhtar from the UK, Noor Naga flying from Cairo, and our very own poetry stars, Dr. Afra Atiq, Ahmed Al Ali, Abdallah, and Zainab Arrefai. I know we are going to have some electrifying performances and wonderful evening filled with drama, emotion, and perhaps some tears. But before the performances begin, I would like to thank DTCM for sponsoring the event, and also DWTC for the food and beverages, Tour Dubai for the venue, the Hamdan Heritage Center for the Ayala dancers and entertainment, and of course our title sponsor, Emirates Airline, and founding partner, Dubai Culture. نبدأ رحلتنا الشعرية اليوم مع الشاعرة الإماراتية زينب الرفاعي. زينب الرفاعي شاعرة إماراتية تكتب الشعر النبطي منذ 2007. شاركت في عدد من الأمسيات والمهرجانات الشعرية في مختلف المناسبات الوطنية والاجتماعية. نشرت عدد من القصائد في الصحف المحلية. We start our poetry journey tonight with an Emirati poet, Zainab Arrefai. Zainab is a writer and engineer currently working for Emirates Airline. She has a number of contributions and poetry evenings. Her latest publication is On the Edge of Things. Please welcome with me Zainab Arrefai. رحبوا معي مع زينب الرفاعي.
مساء الخير جميعا. حضور المهرجان وحضور هذه الفعالية، شاكرة لكم هذا التواجد الجميل. أتمنى منكم الاستمتاع معنا في هذه الأمسية. سنوات عمري التي مضت أهديتني إياها، وأخذت سنة ثم أخذت أخرى، أوهمتني بوجودي في سلة عمرك، تلك التي نسقتني فيها زهرا لامرأة أخرى. في الحقيقة سأقرأ بعض المقاطع من تجربتي الأخيرة في كتابة المقال، التي عندما ولدت فيها اعتقدت أني سأضع الشعر جانبا، لكنه أبى إلا أن يكون حاضرا. الليل الذي لا نعرفه كان جزءا من النهار الذي يمتدحه الجميع، هرب منه، أطفأ نفسه واستقر حيث لا يرى. هل هذا هو الليل الذي نعرفه؟ قد يكون كذلك، وقد يكون نسخة من البعض منا اضطرت للهروب من أحد النهارات، وربما هو نسخة من آخرين كثر لا حيلة لهم في الحياة سوى ممارسة هروبهم اليومي عند موقف مؤذن أو كلمة جارحة أو مزاج سيء، أو هو شبيه بالبعض الآخر الذي يعبر النهار عبورا مسالما لأنه ابن الليل الذي لا يطيق الزخم والأضواء والأشخاص. وعلى الرغم من وضوح النهار إلا أنه يأخذنا في موجة من الانشغالات والتصادمات اليومية التي لا تسمح لنا بمعرفة ما ينبغي علينا معرفته من إجابات مهمة لأسئلة تستمر في التضخم في دواخلنا، بينما يضيء لنا الليل أقاصي التراكمات وما في أنفسنا من تعب وخوف، فإما المواجهة والخلاص، وإما الغرق في دائرة الشعور غير المستحب. شكرا. الكلمة وعالمها الموازي. في هذا المقال أردت التركيز على فكرة النصوص المترجمة من لغة إلى أخرى، وبالأخص أحببت التركيز على الكلمة المقصية من بعض النصوص المترجمة، كيف تشعر هذه الكلمة وكيف لها أن تتشابه معنا نحن البشر في حياتنا اليومية. سأقرأ مقطع من هذا المقال. من جملة النصوص التي تقرأ كل يوم هناك كلمة تهرب من صفحة إلى أخرى أو من متن النص إلى هامشه، وعندما يصلها قارئ فضولي يفتش الهوامش طمعا في معلومة إضافية يتعرف إليها سريعا ويستنكر في نفسه هروبها المستمر، إذ التقاها في أول الصفحات وعرفها جريئة تتصدر العناوين والصفحات. قد تتشارك هذه الكلمة في دافعها للهرب مع أولئك الهاربين من طموحهم بعد انكسارهم الأول، أو الذين غيروا مسارا كانوا شغوفين به بسبب إحباطات المقربين المتتالية. وقد يكون القيد الذي لف حول محاولاتهم قاسيا جدا حتى ارتضوا الهوامش مكانا آمنا ليعيشوا فيه تجربة متواضعة. نحن الذين نشبه الكلمة في كثير من حالاتها وظروفها، من الوارد جدا أن نشبه كلمة الحق المنتظرة في ظرف ما، أو أن نكون في ظرف آخر ككلمة الوداع التي لم ينتظرها أحد. وشكرا.
شكرا زينب. شاعرتنا الثانية هي إليزابيث أسيفيدو. إليزابيث مؤلفة كتاب The Poet X الذي تصدر قائمة كتب نيويورك تايمز، فازت بجائزة الكتاب الوطني لأدب الأطفال وجائزة مايكل برينتس وجائزة بورا بيلبري وجوائز أخرى. أما كتابها صفق عندما تهبط فقد حاز على مرتبة الشرف من جائزة بوسطن جلوب هورن للكتاب، وتم ترشيحه لجائزة كيركس. إليزابيث أسيفيدو حائزة على بطولة الشعر الحر وتحمل ماجستيرا في الكتابة الإبداعية من جامعة ماريلاند. Elizabeth Acevedo is the New York Times best-selling author of The Poet X, which won the National Book Award for Young People's Literature, and Michael L. Prince Award, and Pura Belpré Award, among other prizes. Clap When You Land, which was a Boston Globe Horn Honor Book and a Kirkus Prize finalist. She is a National Poetry Slam champion and holds an MFA in Creative Writing from the University of Maryland. Please welcome with me Elizabeth Acevedo.
Good evening. I want to dedicate this poem tonight to Nikita Gill. This is for us writers, us readers, us girls who never saw ourselves on bookshelves, but we're still writing poems when we talked. And we've been called teeth-sucking, of snapping eyes, born bitter, of tangled tongues, sandpaper that's been origamied into girl, not worthy of being a hero, nor the author. But we were always Medusa's favorite daughters, of serpent curls, of hard-eyed looks, dreaming in the foreshadow we composed ourselves. Since childhood, taking pens to our palms, as if we could rewrite the stanzas of lifelines that tried to tell us we would never amount to much. And when we were relegated to the margins, we still danced bachata in the footnotes. We still clawed our ways onto the cover, brought our full selves to the page, our every color palette and bouquet of pansies, of big gold hoops, of these hiatus and smart quips and popping bubble gum kisses, us girls who never saw ourselves on bookshelves, but we're still writing tales in the dark, us black and brown girls, brick built, masters of every metaphor and every metamorphosis. Catch us with fresh manicures, nail filing down obsidian stone, and painstakingly crafting our own mirror and stories into existence. We share the world with creatures big and small, and we tell ourselves stories of what creatures are worthy. This is for the professor who told me rats are not a noble enough creature for a poem, a rat ode. Because you are not the admired nightingale, because you are not the noble doe, Because you are not the picturesque ermine, armadillo, or bat. They have been written, and I don't know their song the way I know you're scuttling between walls. The scent of your collapsed corpse rotting beneath floorboards. Your frantic squeal as you pull at your own fur from glue traps, ripping flesh from skin in an attempt to survive. Because in July of 97, you raised a legion on 109th, swarmed from behind the dumpsters, made our streets infamous for something other than crack. Shoot, we nicknamed you Cat Killer, raced with you through open hydrants, squeaked like you when Siete blasted aluminum bat into your brethren's skull. The sound like slapped down dominoes. You reigned that summer rat, and even when they sent exterminators, half dead and on fire, you pushed on. Because even though you are an inelegant, simple, mammal bottom feeder, always frickin' famished little ugly thing who feasts on what crumbs fall from the corners of our mouths, you live uncuddled. Uncoddled, can't be bought at Petco and fed to fat snakes, because you are not the maze rat of labs, pale, pretty-eyed, trained. You raise yourself, sharp-fanged, clawed-scarred, patched dark. Because of this, the professor should love you. But look at the beast, the poet tells me. The table is already full, and rat, you are not a right-worthy thing. Every time they say that, take your gutter, your dirt coat, filth this page, rat, scrape your underbelly against street concrete. You better squeak and raise the whole world, rat. Let loose a plague of words, rat, and remind them that you, that I, we are worthy of every poem here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was amazing. Our next poet is Sasha A. Akhtar. Sasha is the author of 6 poetry collections. In 2019, her poem, Poems for Eliot, was named the top poem for the last 5 years in Poetry Wales. In the same year, Akhtar's poetry appeared in the Blackpool Illuminations. Most recently, she has authored a collection of short fictions set in Pakistan entitled Of Necessity and Wanting, which has been shortlisted for the UBL Literary Awards for Excellence for Debut Fiction. Her next book is of translations of the writings of feminist writer Hijab Imtiyaz, who was also incidentally the first Muslim female pilot in the subcontinent. It will be published by Oxford University Press, India in July 2022. Sasha Akhtar شاعرة ألفت 6 دواوين شعرية في عام 2019. سميت قصيدتها قصائد إلى إليوت واحدة من أهم القصائد في السنوات ال5 الأخيرة في Poetry Wales. في نفس السنة تم نشر شعر ساشا في Blackpool Illumination الإلقاء المتميز. ومؤخرا ألفت مجموعة من القصص القصيرة بعنوان Of Necessity and Wanting. كتابها المقبل سيكون ترجمة لكتابات الكاتبة النسوية حجاب امتياز التي كانت أول امرأة مسلمة تعمل كقبطان طائرة في شبه القارة الهندية. كتابها سينشر في شهر يوليو 2022 مع Oxford University Press. Please welcome Sasha A. Akhtar.
Salam to the stars, salam to the winds, salam to the waters, and salam to the earth, and salam to me and you and all of us here gathered. I thought I would choose some of my Sufiana kalam for tonight. The birds are sparkling in the night. The birds are sparkling in the night. I wish I could become them and sparkle too. The birds of time are empty. The birds of time are empty. I wish I could become them empty too. Raga. I have misplaced the memory of you, morning stars. A journey that began with 1 becomes 2 and multiplies. Herons are born, flamingos are born, tapirs are born, and born we are displaced. On this planet, cupping water in our hands to wash these many faces growing wildly outside the hothouse where the prize orchids are tended. The Sufi's Sestina. The arbitration of memory captured in form, a systemic mapping of the pathways of the heart maze. If you could, would you live in the channels of my blood just to look out of my eyes? Inside me, secrets dive and glide like the bliss of swooping swallows. She said, in our waking moments we walk like jazz, talk like jazz. As if to me you would ever be a dream rocking softly in an echo. As if to me you would ever be a dream rocking softly in an echo. The arbitration of memory captured in form. She said, in our waking moments we walk like jazz, float like jazz, navigating the diamond pathways of the heart maze. Inside you, my secrets glide, diving like the harmony of silent swallows. If you could, would you live in the channels of my blood, looking out through these eyes? If I could, I would swim in the channels of your blood just to look out through your eyes. To me, you could ever be a dream, rocking softly in an echo. Inside, there are no secrets, just skies of jackknifing swallows, the arbitration of memory held gently in form, a systemic mapping of the pathways of the heart maze. She said, sometimes I get lost in your jazz. She said, baby, sometimes I get lost in your living jazz. If I could, I would stand instead of you, inside you, in your eyes. A systemic mapping of the pathways of the heart maze. I'll be dreaming of you, echo after echo after echo. The memory of arbitration of memory captive in form. And only they have eyes, only they have memories, the swallows. And only I have eyes, only I have memories, like the swallows. I told her, baby, I can get lost in your moving jazz. Captive are my memories, breathing in this form. If I could, I would step inside you to see through your eyes. Blinking silently as voices in my dreams that have no echo. There are often times I long for you, searching in the heart maze. I always long for you, lost in you in the heart maze. Nothing lives here but the swooping infinite swallows. I thought I heard you in a dream, in an echo. I was running through clouds of gold, breathing scattered jazz. I felt you living in me, looking out of my own eyes, my memories of you lost in time, in space, in form. This is the matterless form. I have led you onto the pathways of my heart maze. You must look out of your own eyes now and soar like sailing swallows. In the middle of the night, mysteries reveal themselves like jazz hanging in the corners of echoes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Next is Ahmed Al Ali, a Saudi poet, editor, and translator. He translated into Arabic many international titles, including Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, Paul Auster's The Invention of Solitude, and Elif Shafak's Black Milk. أحمد العلي شاعر من السعودية، مترجم ومحرر أدبي. أكمل دراسته العليا في علوم نشر الكتب وتحريرها من مدينة نيويورك. تدرس في دار بينغوين راندوم هاوس للنشر، وألف 4 كتب من بينها كما يغني بوب مارلي، لافندر أوتيل كاليفورنيا، وترجم إلى العربية عدة كتب أدبية أبرزها اختراع العزلة، حليب أسود، وحكاية الجارية. رحبوا معي بأحمد العلي.
السلام عليكم. يبتعد هذا الليل عني ويشتبه علي تشابه وجوه المسنين، وأفعل ما يفعل اليوغاني متربعا داخل صدره يقرأ كتاب الكارثة. هل من أحد هناك؟ تبدو الساعة الثانية دوما أرق من الأولى، وراح اللبلاب يتسلق الكرسي الخالي مني في الغرفة الخالية مني. تلمس موجة قدمي فلا أستيقظ ولا أنام، ولا أعرف من ينظر إلي الآن. إن كنت أنت، إن كنت أنت، فحرك قليلا هذا الظلام، ساعدني أو ادخل في كتابي كراك. ماذا تفعل الأشجار في منزلي؟ تعلمني النمو عفو الجهات رغم أن الشمس واحدة في النافذة. تعلمني الذبول قلبا قلبا رغم أن الحزن واحد في العين. أمر أكاد أخفيه يطغى في خفة القول والتلفت أمامها. أشجار منزلي ترقب هذا المسخ المشاء على اثنتين. إنها تراك طيرا يعالج سماءه. هل أنت ما تظنه حقا في البيت، أزليا أخضر في تربة الأهل؟ هل أنت من يكتب هذا أم كتبته قبلك في هواء منزلك الأشجار؟ منذ ليل الطفولة إلى أشباحها العاجزة همت في حديقة رقراقة كالحدقة. ما عرفت صفرة تعتلي لساني، ولا عهدت يدي خاوية من طعام الطيور. لكن اليوم أوه انقلب قلبي. قد تجد الليل تحت صخرة في النوم لا في السماء. قد تدرك حلوى طفولتك في جيوب 30. الإصبع المدماة كم توحي لك باللعب أكثر من الدمى نفسها. رمالك العالية تطفو مثل يد فوق البيت تفتشه وترسمه من جديد. لكنك اليوم تتعب وتقول تعبت. أوه عنك وعنها، عن الكتب والأبناء والأبواب والطرقات، عن هذا وذاك. اليوم انقلب قلبي. النص الأخير كتب أيام أحداث الشيخ جراح في فلسطين. من يخلط المراهم لجروح لا ترى؟ جسمي في جسوم كثيرة تطلب عيشها هذا الصباح ذاهبة إلى العمل. سمعت الدمع يرن صامتا في صوان صدرها. تعثرت بزهرة هاربة من لوز درويش، بعظام ناعمة من عش طير بعيد اسمه درويش. أرخيت يدي له لسروته الحية في قلبي، لحصانه الخالد في بيت أبي، لفجره المربوع القوي. هذا الصباح أخرج الناس من بيوتهم، لكنني ما استطعت الخروج. لا صوت للمفاتيح، وعلى بابي لم أجد الباب يا درويش. شكرا.
شكرا يا أحمد، جميل جدا. Our next poet for the night is Danabelle Gutierrez. Danabelle is a multi-awarded writer, poet, actress, and photographer. She is the author of poetry books I Long to Be the River and Until the Dreams Come, and chapbooks eventually The River Surrender and Softer. Born in Las Piñas and raised in Cairo, Vienna, and Muscat, Danabelle now lives in Dubai and is currently working on her next book, Tears Across the Earth. Danabelle Gutierrez كاتبة وممثلة وشاعرة ومصورة فوتوغرافية حاصلة على عدة جوائز. أصدرت عدة دواوين شعرية أبرزها أتوق لأصبح النهر وحتى تتحقق الأحلام، وأعمال قصصية قصيرة مثل في نهاية المطاف وانسياب النهر. ولدت غوتييريز في لاس بينياس وعاشت في القاهرة وفيينا ومسقط. تقيم حاليا في دبي وتعكف على إنهاء كتابها الأخير دموع في كل ركن من العالم. رحبوا معي بدانابيل غوتييريز. Please welcome Danabelle Gutierrez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Hani, for that beautiful introduction. So, as all of you may have heard from my bio, I grew up in different cities. Often, the moves to the next country were unplanned and quite sad. And this whole vagabond history has kind of translated to this obsession with the subject of home in my poetry. Even when my work was heavily consumed and concerned with romantic love and heartbreak, it was still very locus-oriented. So currently, I'm working on a project with my good friend Trish Shishikura, who is based in the Philippines. She is a poet and a photographer like me. We're doing a series of poems. We're corresponding through poems inspired by Natalie Diaz and Ada Limon's Envelopes of Air. This poem is the most recent piece that I wrote in this series, so direct from my MacBook and onto the stage. This poem is called Still Sing. Gutierrez to Shishikura. When I first left the country, I was too young to understand wings aren't given to anyone, and in exchange, the price is root, is ground. We left at twilight, like thieves before the sun. We were stealing what should have been given, without reserve, life, love. I fell asleep before plane left the tarmac, woke up to a clock ticking as loud as drum lines heading into war, and what sounded like a song from the minaret. The adhan is what I miss most when I am not here, the call to prayer in the city I have learned to call home. After all the other different cities, continents away from the first drift, the first of many, with each migration I grew older. I learned things I have no language to express, so instead I sing. Now I have learned to stand still. Zugenruhe is what German behavioral scientists call the migratory restlessness observed in domesticated birds when flowers start to bloom or when trees go to sleep. How birds repeatedly flutter in a certain direction, knowing they can't fly beyond the borders, and still their little bodies beg them to fly in the same way, how even when alone, they still sing. Thank you. Thank you very much. I leave you with this poem, which has found a home in Core Diet Poetry Review last November. So, thank you. I have lived in Dubai for 18 years, and it's pretty much home for me. And this poem is a little sad because I wrote it during a time when I wasn't sure whether I'd have to leave the country, which I really did not want to do. I love this city. And thankfully, and with deep gratitude to Dubai culture, I am still here. Dubai is still home. This poem is called Ginger. The languages buried deep in my tongue do not know the taste of home, has tried to replicate tahanan in English, auf Deutsch, بالعربي, en français. Gingembre in every city has helped me swallow enough keys to doors my belly has learned to make room for. I have been traveling since I was 7. I sniff for directions nach zu Hause. I learned Yasmin is sampaguita, but only one of them is steeped in hot water, the other bought from tiny hands and hung on rear view mirrors. 4,000 miles whence my hands have tried to build a house on sand where my toes recognize the feeling of Beiti. I distract myself with growing in every garden, luya, ginger, ingwer, zanjibil, the rough and spice of it, the root, abundant and everywhere. I trust the magic of the earth will bloom flowers, common or precious or je ne sais quoi. Above me, the birds in flight are singing a different song while I have memorized the lyrics for this constant plucking and uprooting. I am honeyed throat and ambered lip. I am sweet enough for birdsong, but I will tell you plainly, I am tired. I am lost. Please help me make sense of this. The salt of my skin, longing for origin, hopes for clouds, for less horizon, for less gravity, else feathers. Dear birds, tell me what to do when the ocean cuts itself in half. Again, the seabed beckoning me to walk between saltwater walls. Dear birds, I envy the knowledge your wings bear, knowing how to leave, when to come back, and where. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danabelle. That was amazing. Our next poet for tonight is Noor Naga. Noor is an Alexandrian writer who was born in Philadelphia, raised in Dubai, studied in Toronto, and now lives in Cairo. Her novel, Wash's Praise, won the Bronwyn Wallace Award, the RBC PEN Canada Award, and the Disquiet Fiction Prize. And her work has been published in Granta, Poetry, The Common, and more. نور ناغا كاتبة اسكندرانية ولدت في فيلادلفيا ونشأت في دبي ودرست في تورونتو وتعيش الآن في القاهرة. روايتها الشعرية يتوضأ يصلي فازت بجائزة برونوين واليس أوورد وجائزة البنك الملكي الكندي قلم كندا وجائزة ديسكوايت فيكشن. نشرت أعمالها في جرانتا، Poetry, The Common وغيرها. رحبوا معي بنور ناغا.
Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be here tonight. I'm going to be reading from this verse novel, Wash's Praise. The only information you need to know is that it's about a young Muslim immigrant woman in Toronto who falls in love with a married man and then has a complete crisis of faith. So her name is Khadija, and she's describing the meeting to her friend Nof. Meeting number 2. There are meetings. Example, Nof and Khadija exchange names plus geographies, Manama plus Khobar, in Psi 100. Hence they are considered to know each other. And there are recognizings. Example, Khadija and Khadija meet, but one of them is bearded, calls himself Muhammad. We say the same thing at the same time. At the same time, we say the same thing at the same time. Like double loops in a single circuit, every neuron fires twice. In English, the collective noun for miracle is spook, i.e., a school of fish and a spook of miracles. Nof, how can I show you my joy? Mama said the first time I tasted chocolate at the age of 2, I burst into applause. In that synaptic gap between knowing what we know and knowing that we know, he and I jumped up and down like children. We found each other, we found each other. He said that a man said that, the prophet man said, our Lord laughs at the despair that his servants feel when his help is so near. So near, he laughs. I cannot breathe for gratitude, alhamdulillah. I cannot breathe either, alhamdulillah. I thought he had forgotten me. I too thought he had forgotten me. In English, the collective noun for wonder is faith, i.e., a flock of birds and a faith of wonders. Ending. Then he said this word, wife. He says it in a sentence that includes other words like Istanbul, Rome, 2 children, my. But this word wife inhales all of the air. Its tall black gills open laterally, revealing tucked in their slits the jealous red muscle. This word wife inhales the air of the world. Behind him, sparrows drop from the sky like turds, and my lungs close wetly. The organ walls designed never to meet meat and cannot unstick themselves. I have 2 wrung sheets writhing from 2 adjacent ribs. Behind him, leaves petrify on birches. My blood is fast bluing and blacking. The word most commonly used in the Quran to describe a tragedy or calamity should be wife, is musibah. From the root asaba, meaning to hit a target, or correctly hit a target. Meaning there is no finger fumbling unluckiness, why me, why now like this? The cause of all disaster is divine precision. It could be only you, only now, like this. A javelin hurtles through the ages with your name inscribed in its hollow wooden sole, plus the time of impact, plus the exact decibel of pain. Listen, that your lungs have closed wetly is no surprise. You have 2 prenatal bats writhing in 2 amniotic sacs, and all the fish have risen to the surface of the sea. Grieving. The sun did not rise in my room for 40 days. Nof, who knew nothing, came and went with boxes of soup, Portuguese pastries. She fed me in my bed. She washed the sheets and swept the parquet. She ran baths, and while I soaked in them, she sat on the toilet reading me Kundera in Eastern European accent, so I would not drown or eat the bath salts. Nof combed my hair, she braided it with black seed oil. Nof emailed all my professors, including this man, to say someone in my world had died. My phone began to ping, ping. If you hold your grief up to the light, and there is a hole in the velvet, even a very small one, you will have a star with which to orient yourself. If there is no hole in the velvet, not even a very small one, the night will flood inside your skull. Your brain will float outside of time like a deity, or the eels necking their own mothers on the ocean floor. A body lay on a bed in a room. I was not inside the body on the bed or in the room. After 40 days, when the sun finally rose, I rose with it. I entered the kitchen to discover Nof had taken all the knives. There were no razors in the bathroom, no belts in my closet. Weeks later, my papers were due, and I learned she had removed even the staples from my stapler. Pinging. 28 out of 41 pings were your pings. You said, I thought you knew, I thought you knew. You said, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do with my life. You said, there are people to live for and people to die for, there is no math for this. If it is good for you, I will leave you alone. Is it good, should I leave you alone? I said, never, please never. You said, if it is good for you, I will come closer. Is it good? Should I come closer? I said, yes, please, yes. No, I don't know. You said a quarter century is a third of your projected life. You are starving, girl. When will you eat? All your pores are open mouths. I said, I have so much to give. You said, Rumi said. I said, Rumi is the white woman's gigolo. You said him, yes, the white woman's gigolo said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. I said Brad Pitt tattooed that on his ass. You said still. I said a miracle is a miracle. I said if it weren't, it wouldn't be. You said no. I said I don't know where to put all my need. You said the one who gave it to you also gave me to you, and you to me, remember that. I said, ain't that a mercy? You said we'll carry our love like a secret. I said, and no one will ever know. Thank you.
Thank you, Noor. That was beautiful. Our next poet for the night is Nikita Gill. Nikita is a British Indian writer and poet living in the south of England with a huge online following. Her words have entranced hearts and minds all over the world. She has written and curated 7 volumes of poetry and is described as one of the most successful Insta poet and one of the most exciting young writers working today. Her works have been featured in the New York Times, The Guardian, and more. Her last work is The Girl and the Goddess and Where Hope Comes From, Poems of Resilience, Healing, and Light. Also, her last works being optioned for a TV show in the UK. نيكيتا جيل كاتبة وشاعرة بريطانية هندية تعيش في جنوب إنجلترا. فتنت كلماتها القلوب والعقول في جميع أنحاء العالم، ويتابعها جمهور كبير على منصات التواصل الاجتماعي. كتبت 7 مجلدات من الشعر وتعد من أنجح شعراء إنستغرام. تم نشر أعمالها في نيويورك تايمز، الجارديان وغيرها. رحبوا معي بنيكيتا جيل.
It's such an honor to be here, and it's such an honor to witness so much beautiful poetry tonight. So I'm actually going to read 2 poems, and the second one is a bit longer. But I'm absolutely obsessed with the night sky and the stars. And the law of conservation of energy basically states that energy is neither created nor destroyed, which means that we've all been here before in some form or the other. So my first poem is called Reincarnation. The sun is older than the earth, and the moon has watched more lovers end than fall in love. And maybe we have all been here before in some form. Maybe I was a tree and you were the bird that built her nest there. Maybe you were the river and I was the stag that drank from it. And we have loved harder. And we have loved bigger than this. Before we had mouths or language or hope, we still had love. I know it's not much, but my God, it's beautiful. And on so many days, it is enough. My second poem. So I have a little brother. Thank you. So I have a baby brother, and as we know, like, our siblings can be our worst ever critics. And before I left India the last time, my brother came into my room and he was like, because I was going straight into a performance off the flight, and he was like, you know what, I love you, but all your poems are really depressing. As you do. And I was like, thanks, mate. I'm going to perform in 12 hours. So, but what he said was, look, I think you should give the audience something hopeful, right? And he pulls out this thing, this like really battered piece of paper from his pocket. And it was this poem I had written for him when he was really struggling. And he was like, read this. This is what you should read. I haven't seen my brother in 3 years, which is a very long time for us. So Ishan, this one's for you. I do listen to you sometimes. And this is a poem about all of you. On your worst days, when the world has been most cruel to you, when things have gone so wrong that you can barely breathe without 1,000 knives feeling like they're stabbing into you, and you feel like you don't matter, that none of this matters, I hope you look at the night sky. I hope you realize that in that moment of looking at that incredible tapestry before you, that you are not alone. And most importantly, I hope you understand how no matter what the world has done to you that day, you are a deeply essential being. You see, the same thing that made that beautiful night sky with all of its diamond stars, with its luminous moon, with the millions of solar systems and galaxies that exist side by side, also thought that you were a brilliant idea. And that isn't just a pretty thing to say. There is science to back that up. The probability of you existing at all comes down to 1 in 10 is to the power of 2,685,000. The very idea that you exist, considering these extremely low odds, is a miracle all on its own. You see, the exact DNA that came from your parents to create you could have happened when your parents met, which is 1 chance in 20,000. That alone should be enough, but when you add up the fact that it has taken 5 to 10 million years of human evolution for you to exist at this time, in this moment, then it has taken your personal journey to be here, an undefeated ancestry that goes back 4 billion years, all the way to single-celled organisms. You begin to recognize just how much of an impossibility all of you are. And look at what your body is made of. The universe loved you so much. It valued your fight to exist so much that it gave you the blood of the stars. So you are made of 93% of the very stars you see in the night sky. It gave you acids within your stomach that eat away anything you cannot digest, including the hateful emotions that are thrown your way. It gave you a heart that is so powerful that it can beat outside of your body. It gave you a spine stronger than granite. It gave you the veins and the blood and the iron in your veins to remind you what a warrior that you are. You weren't supposed to exist. You fought all of those odds just to be here, and that is no accident. You are here for a reason. You exist and breathe this air for a reason. You have purpose. Your existence has meaning. Someone smiled because of you today. Someone remembered something you did that was kind. Someone went to sleep thinking of you today. And more so, there are people who love you, and people who you haven't even met yet who will love you so much they would do anything for you. You are a miracle. The idea of your existence is a miracle. The fact that you are breathing at all is a miracle. Remember this. When the world makes you feel like you don't matter, the universe, who was creator to us all, thought that you were a brilliant plan. So it gave you a chance to breathe and exist when the probability was so very low, all because you fought to be here and never gave up. From the moment that it thought of you, you had already won a cosmic war. Don't stop fighting now. No matter what your mental illness says, no matter what the world tells you, no matter the odds, you get up. You look up at that night sky. You remember every star that collapsed its own lungs to bring you to life. You remember their sacrifice, and you get up and you fight again. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita. That was amazing. Don't you all feel warm with all this beautiful, heartwarming poetry? Our next is Sara Abdallah. Sara is an Arabic poetess and passionate children's author. Having founded Makuki platform for Arabic content, she wrote over 50 children's songs and stories. Over 20 years, she wrote animated episodes on digital platforms, songs for educational institutions, as well as scripts for advertising campaigns. But her poetry platform, Laki Kalima, is where her passion lies. It is focused on Arabic poetry for women, from women. It is a feminist platform. سارة عبد الله شاعرة عربية وكاتبة أطفال شغوفة. سارة أسست منصة مكوكي للمحتوى العربي وكتبت أكثر من 50 قصة وأغنية للأطفال. خلال 20 عام سارة كتبت حلقات كرتونية على منصات إلكترونية متعددة وأغاني تعليمية للأطفال، وكما أيضا كتبت حملات دعائية. لكن في منصتها الشعرية لك كلمة تجد سارة صوتها وشغفها، وهي منصة تعنى بشؤون المرأة، حيث تركز على الشعر العربي للمرأة من المرأة. رحبوا معي مع سارة عبد الله.
Marhaban. I'll be reading in Arabic, but I wanted to share the title of my poem with you. It's a letter from a feminist mother, and I dedicate it to my daughters. رسالة من نسوية. أكتب رسالتي لها وأظنني أعرف كل الشعائر وكل المبادئ وأخالني أملك كل الحروف. سأقول لها أن لا شيء في العالم كله يحول بينها وبين الأحلام مهما كانت الظروف. سأربيها قوية أبية مستقلة. صغيرة هي ولكن سأعودها أن تأخذ حقها وحدها دون أن أتدخل، فالدنيا مليئة بسحب سوداء أمطارها تنتظر أن تصطاد فريسة عليها تهطل. في الملعب هي لأول مرة تغمض عينيها وتعد للعشرة، وأنا أجلس على ذلك الكرسي البعيد كي لا تراني. أقدم أظافري وأشد على أسنان قلبي يدق يدق يدق. أفكر أليس من المفروض أن يكون الأطفال ملائكة الدنيا؟ من أين لهم كل هذه القسوة؟ ذلك الطفل اللئيم لا يعطي حبيبتي فرصة. تهم رجلي بالوقوف، أمنع نفسي من خوف حولي يطوف. سأربيها قوية أبية مستقلة، أراقب من بعيد كيف تخسر. أسرق ابتسامة من ذاكرة وجهي ألبسها. علي ألا أتأثر. وتبدأ الحكاية، ولكل حكاية بداية ورحلة ونهاية. وحبيبتي صغيرتي تكبر، أخاف أن تدلي بشعرها الطويل من برج عال فيشده أمير ليصبح بطل القصة. سأقول لها أن شعرها ليس جسرا للعبور. سأقول لها أن تحرق جدران تلك القصور وتبني مكوكا فضائيا تسافر فيه إلى كوكب آخر إن لم يسعها هذا العالم الصغير. سأقول لها أن تغامر، وحين أرى في عينيها بريقا من وقع كلامي عليها يقع قلبي من مكانه، وأتجمد أنا في مكاني وأردد على مسامعها دعاء أمي لي حين كنت أخاف، وأعرف في تلك اللحظة فقط أنها هي من كانت تخاف، وأن الدعاء كان لها وليس لي. أتنفس وأذكر نفسي سأربيها قوية أبية مستقلة، لكنها تأتي إلي ذات يوم وقلبها الصغير يدق يدق يدق، فلقد ذاقت حبيبتي طعم الحب لأول مرة، وأنا أعرف كيف تنتهي الحكاية. سأقول لها لا، لن أقول. سأسمعها ترنم لحنا منسوجا من أصوات البلابل، وتنشد قصائدا عن شمس تلامس بنورها السنابل. وحين تأتي إلي تبكي لن أبوح لها بآخر الحكاية، لن أقول لها أنني أعرف كيف لا تجمع القلوب المكسورة حين تحول إلى فتاة، فأنا كنت صبية مثلها من زمن ليس ببعيد. كنت فتاة أعرف كيف يكون القلب حين يسكنه وجع، وكيف تختفي من حوله كل الأصوات، وكيف تتسابق عقارب الساعة لليال تلامس بعضها إلى أن يرق ويفتح أبوابه لعشق جديد في لحظات. سأربيها قوية أبية مستقلة، وأهديها كتب جبران، وأعلمها كل صفحات كتاب النبي. ثقوا بالأحلام، إن في أطوائها باب الخلود، ولكنه قال أولادكم ليسوا لكم. سأتغاضى عن هذا الكلام وكأن ليس له وجود، وأصلي ألا تلاحظ. سأربيها قوية أبية مستقلة، وأودعها بابتسامة وشال لعلها تبرد حين تخرج ذات ليلة، وأجلس على الكنبة أنتظر منها أن تعود، كما كانت أمي تنتظر مني أن أعود كي أطبع على جبينها قبلة، وأراها تنام في السرير الذي وضبته بلحاف تحب ألوانه. عددت حين اشتريته خيطانة، فهي تحب ملمس القطن الناعم يليق بنعومتها. وأنا أخاف من ذلك الرمادي الذي اختارته يزعج بشرتها. سأربيها قوية أبية مستقلة، فلكل حكاية بداية ورحلة ونهاية. وحبيبتي الآن في رحلة تكتب حكايتها، وأنا لست إلا قارئتها. أهديها مني هدية، رسالة من أم نسوية. شكرا.
Thank you, Sarah. That was really nice. Our final act for the night is a combined collaboration between three talents: Brent Shuttleworth, Carlos Andrés Gómez, and Dr. Afra Atiq. So bear with me while I introduce them all. Brent Shuttleworth is a critically acclaimed singer, songwriter, and producer who currently resides in Washington, D.C. His music has been featured in films, TV shows on Netflix, Amazon, VH1, MTV, NBC, TLC, Lifetime, and CBS. He has shared the stage with a diverse variety of acts, including George Clinton, Pete Rock, Switchfoot, Robert Randolph, Immortal Technique, K-Flay, and more. Brent Shuttleworth مغني وكاتب أغاني ومنتج نال استحسان النقاد، يقيم حاليا في واشنطن دي سي. يؤلف ويلحن للأفلام والبرامج التلفزيونية على نتفليكس، أمازون، VH1, MTV, NBC, TLC, Lifetime, CBS. رافق العديد من المشاهير على المسرح، أبرزهم جورج كلينتون، بيت روك، سويتشفوت، روبرت راندولف، Immortal Technique وغيرهم كثيرون. Carlos Andrés Gómez is a Colombian-American poet and performer from New York City. In August of 2021, Carlos released his debut studio album, Opus, a groundbreaking spoken word album in collaboration with musician-producer Brent Shuttleworth and Grammy Award-winning record producer Joe West. A star of HBO's Def Poetry Jam and Spike Lee's Inside Man with Denzel Washington, Carlos collaborated with John Legend on Senior Orientation, a program to counteract bullying and champion inclusive masculinity among high school students. كارلوس أندريس غوميز شاعر كولومبي أمريكي من مدينة نيويورك ومؤلف كتاب الابن الصغير، تم اختياره للفوز بجائزة بروكن ريفر لعام 2018 ومذكرات الصغير وكن رجلا إعادة تخيل الرجولة الحديثة. كارلوس من أشهر النجوم المشاركين في البرنامج التلفزيوني دف للإلقاء الشعري الذي عرض على محطة HBO. تشمل جوائز غوميز جائزة ساندي كريمنز الوطنية للشعر وجائزة أتلانتا ريفيو الدولية للشعر وغيرهم الكثيرون. Dr. Afra Atiq, our festival darling, is an Emirati school and poet. She has completed her PhD in media and creative industries at UAE University, also has a master's degree in diplomacy and has been published in international journals. Her research focuses on mapping the Arab literary sphere, education, literacy, social media effects, and collective memory. She has won numerous awards for her poetry and has been featured on stages across the world. Her art explores a broad range of topics, which include heritage, culture, identity, legacy, self-acceptance, grief, and almost everything in between. She writes and performs in a blend of English, Arabic, and French. She's a founding member of Untitled Chapters, a community for Emirati women writers. الدكتورة عفراء عتيق باحثة وشاعرة إماراتية حصلت على درجة الدكتوراه في الإعلام والمجالات الإبداعية من جامعة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، حاصلة على درجة الماجستير في العلاقات الدولية والدبلوماسية، تكتب للدوريات العالمية المرموقة وتركز أبحاثها على الأدب العربي والتعليم وتأثيرات وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي والذاكرة الجماعية. حازت العديد من الجوائز، جوائز الشعر، وألقت الشعر على عدة مسارح في مختلف أنحاء العالم. الدكتورة عفراء عضو مؤسس في مركز فصول بلا عنوان، وهو مركز مخصص للكاتبات الإماراتيات. رحبوا معي أولا بالدكتورة عفراء عتيق.
مساء الخير. Festival darling, I kind of like that title, so I think we should try to make it stick. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, and thank you for constantly and consistently supporting poets and poetry and literature. I am going to share a poem with you tonight before we go into the epic collaboration with Brent and Carlos, which I hope you'll enjoy equally. You can clap, it's okay. If you hear something you like tonight, you can snap. Snapping already, great. If you hear something you love, you can clap. It doesn't bother me. It lets me know that I'm doing a good job and perhaps that the festival should invite me back next year. You know. So this poem actually that I'm reading is pretty special because it's a poem that I wrote with Carlos, but not with Carlos. So we were having that's Carlos. we were having karak, and I told him I have this idea for a poem because something happened, and then I realized that I was talking to myself, and Carlos had just stopped talking. And I said, "Carlos, why aren't you saying anything?" And he just looks at me. "Carlos, why aren't you saying anything?" And he says, "I'm not going to say anything until you finish writing that poem." And so he stared at me until I finished the poem. So this is why I think it's I thought it was appropriate to share tonight. And also the poem is about a situation where, believe it or not, somebody told me that I was just a poet. Yes, exactly like that, if you can believe it. And it was the fact that it was just, like I couldn't be anything else. And then they proceeded to say, well, you know, you're more entertainment than a poet, you know, you're more kind of on the performing side of things. So I decided to write a poem about it. So this poem is called When They Said I Was Just a Poet and I Wrote a Poem. Long title, I know. Okay, ready? Yes. This side is snapping more than this side, just for comparison purposes. There you go. Bismillah. I was raised never to yell, told never to shout unless I absolutely have to, but how do you even say things without yelling? I must be heard, and to be heard, I must be loud in poetry slams. They give you just 3 minutes. Start the clock. 3 minutes to make you care about something, to feel something. 2.5 minutes, I told my life story, and still nobody is listening. So I yell. It goes against everything I was taught. My bones know I am not supposed to be yelling. Never shout unless you absolutely have to, bearing wounds of generations passed down like hand-me-down clothes, battle scars from being told to sit down, be quiet, be silent, be still, be unnoticed, speak only when spoken to, speak only long enough to still be considered acceptable. I must be loud. I need my voice to carry, be the loudest in the room, because being loud means you are being heard. Remember your words, Afra. 2.5 minutes, and for the first time in my life, I am speechless. Forgetting the words that live in the crevices of my vocabulary, I must be heard. I must be heard. Words perched in my throat, despite me asking them politely, please, 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 please don't fail me. I must be heard, and to be heard, I must be loud, carrying a community between my shoulder blades. Because what are words if they are not known? ليش ما تعرفين عفرة? Be known, Afra. Be loud. Be anything other than other. Be loud enough to tell them this isn't how the story goes, but you're woke now, Afra. So stories are now called narratives and counter-narratives, noise coming at you from all angles, geometry of vocabulary marching down the words. There is no right answer. This is the stuff of nightmares, recurring conversation. She's just the performance. Just the entertainment, just rewriting rhyming words. Use your words, Afra. No. This is the remix. A reminder that I can take your just, your only, your J-U-S-T and give it new context. Poet and scholar equal measures of PhD and poetry. Doctora moves paper to voice, vocally verbalizing verbs in my vernacular, which is particularly perplexing to the parts of people who try to pacify the paint of poets, packing them into parcels and padlocking them shut. Just a spoken word poet. I will take your just a spoken word poet and raise you the stakes in language, in lugha, in la langue, just from justice, from voice to poems to speak, من العدل للغة للمشاعر للشعر للقصد للقصة إلى قمة مقاومة القصيدة التقليدية. I will take everything to tell my story until my voice bends time and space. 1 minute left. I will walk into classrooms and tell the kids to sing like no one is listening, to love like no one is hurting, to speak like everyone is listening, speak like everyone is listening, speak like everyone is listening, from mountaintops and valleys and places you've never heard of. Shout it from the rooftops like they don't know what your words will become. 30 seconds left, Afra. Feel your voice rise from your lungs like a patriot to an anthem. Time. Remember your words, Afra. Use your words, Afra. Truth spoken through marble staircase spine. Flex your vocal cords, Afra. Take a breath, Afra. Always, like everyone is listening. Salamatkum. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Give it up one more time for Dr. Afra Atiq. I love that. The festival darling. Dear friend, that was a beautiful moment. If you are extremely grateful to be alive, if you've been mostly in your house for 2 years like me with 2 small kids, if this is one of the most important nights of your life to be with all these other vibrant human beings, make as much noise as possible on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. We knew those aisles were much more than just concrete. They were sacred. A once-in-a-lifetime shot, so we smuggled ourselves into the floor seats to watch Michael Jordan play basketball. The only game he would play on his 30th birthday, thousands headed for the exits because the winners had been decided, they believed, to get a jump start on going home. I saw Michael Jordan play basketball from floor seats in his prime because some Sears and Roebuck regional vice president had some phantom traffic to evade. Or maybe just never even showed up. In my blink of an eye on this earth, may I be struck down by lightning before I ever RSVP, maybe. Before I rate my birthday party a 6 out of 10 after I dance with my sister. Before I walk out on Otis singing or Basquiat painting to go beat traffic, miss out on a chance to live so I can catch up on sleep when you're in a rocking chair. If you're so blessed to make it that far, with your aching and failing joints, your arthritic and curling limbs, the flailing novel of your life rolling out from behind you like a field of swollen marigolds. Do you want your memories to be neatly tucked into Rubbermaid bins in your garage, with nothing in them but records that skip and old photo albums full of multiple copies of the same Polaroid you in your recliner by yourself, watching another bad sitcom rerun. In a recent study of senior citizens, it was found that people rarely regretted most of the things they had done. Overwhelmingly, it was the things they had not done which filled their regret list when they reached old age. This is not a rehearsal, but it sure as hell might be a test. Is there anything left still beating in your chest? I sometimes get tired and notice sand sliding through my hands. When I want to rest, I am done with the days of, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try my best to make it. So much of this life is what you make of it. It's just about arriving through that door, but most of us never even make it out of bed, like Yoda said. Do or do not. There is no try, and there won't be a second one. Forget beating traffic. Leave your car in the parking lot. Let the tears stain your face as you run through the rain. Your arms outstretched, alive, like the last few gasps before going under. Like a supernova, seen alive behind still traveling lights. Although it is flickered out, we wonder, are you still there? Awe and wonder, are you still there? An echo after light, like thunder. My God, we're still here. We are still here. 2 years later, we are still here. We made it.
Festival Darling has returned to the stage.
Thank you,
So Carlos and I and Brent have a surprise that we've been working on that was actually inspired by the festival, and more importantly, it was inspired by something that I'm pretty sure was very relevant, but it came to pass, particularly, through the pandemic, literary conversations across borders, and the idea of transcending borders. So Carlos and I wanted to write a piece that would go beyond any borders and obstacles. It's a traveling piece. It's something that we love. It's something that we're very proud of, and we're so excited to have everybody experience it along with us, because it's pretty special.
Make some noise for Brent Shuttleworth, the musical genius of this entire thing.
Is not enough. I let the poem fill me up, transcending grief and place and time. In every line, a lifeline.
Like a single ray through a crack in stained glass. Like the sky spilling downward when you're at the bottom. Like the way silence is broken when an aria cracks you open. Like words woven through poems to cast a spell, to be the omen. Please open. My griefs these days give me no reprieve. I'm only whole through line breaks that give me release. You ask what a poem can do. Without Martín Espada, would I have made it through? I was 17, shadow trapped and lost at sea, looking to be anyone but me, inside a self I could not see. And then I felt his poetry, the bread of angels knowing me as someone other than that armory, a fight relentlessly and silently, prepared for war inside of me. Amidst debris, the tender parts still guiding me. Each stanza made a room to free the best parts in spite of me. My life remains the proof. Without Martín Espada's words, I would not have made it through. When language is not enough, I let the poem fill me up, transcending grief and place and time. In every line, a lifeline. My imagination, like wildfire. Vivid as my first memory, I was 2, maybe 3. The dictionary in its deep blue splendor in front of me. Flipping pages and glancing over words like somehow I knew these letters and ink would carry me. At 10, words spiraling into armor, some words spoken, some not. Some silent and buried with weary hands, and some would transform into poems 12 years later, on stages I never dare even dream of. Like somewhere I knew that if light travels in a straight line, then the lines of a poem must also travel in infinite and opposite directions, that regardless of the degree of darkness, syllables will always make words, and words will always make poems, and poems will always lifeline into places we cannot yet reach, because sometimes there is nothing but words. Letters strung together, illuminating even the most silent of spaces to lift and teach. My favorite lessons have always been about life. Lucille Clifton said, poetry is a matter of life, not just a matter of language.
Et la poésie n'est pas coïncidente des mots, elle est nécessaire pour la lumière au son des ténèbres.
Como dijo Pablo Picasso, todo lo que puede ser imaginado es real.
ربما يتبع النور القصيدة كما تتبع القصيدة الكلمات.
We build these words to fight anguish.
A matter of life, not just a matter of language.
La poésie es une lumière nécessaire, my langue.
We cast light when darkness is everywhere. Todo lo que puedo ser imaginado es real.
May each word hold grief. May each word hold grief and joy on every scale. Rabama, Anur, Yataba, Al-Qasida, Lugati.
Inspire all with what is shared, we lay bare our flaws.
Like song from quivered jaw.
When language is not enough,
to let each syllable draw.
I let the poem fill me up.
From bottom skyward we claw.
Transcending grief and place and time.
A fire to break the thaw.
In every line,
a lifeline. Give it up one more time for Brent Shuttleworth. Give it up for festival darling, Dr. Afra Atiq. I always say Afra is the Beyonce and Poet Laureate in one of the Emirates for poetry. Give it up for Afra Atiq. I'm Carlos Andrés Gómez. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.